Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gora Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gora Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gora Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Radha Radhanath ki jai, Shri Gaura Hari ki jai, Giri Govardhan ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Nita Gaur Premanande. Jam Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Parivarchakacharya Sutta Sutta Shri Srimad His Divine Loving Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jam Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Parivarchakacharya Sutta Sutta Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Premsa Gahoshi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Shri Mayapur Dham ki jai. Ganga Maya Muni Maya ki jai. Tulsi Marani Bhakti Devi ki jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Our Divine Loving Lordships Shri Shri Nitai Mayapur Chandri ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki jai. Guru Hari ki jai. Giri Govardhan ki jai. Nita Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bo. Must I say Om Namo Bhagavate? Maharaj, must I say Om Namo Bhagavate for Prabhupada lilamrta? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, chapter titled A Lot of Ground to be Covered. Section titled Allahabad, January 1971. Kumbh Mela is the greatest congregation of human beings on earth. Every 12 years in Allahabad, sadhus and pilgrims from all over India gather at the Triveni, the confluence of the three holy rivers, Ganges, Yamuna, and Saraswati. And at an auspicious time that assures the worshipper liberation from the cycle of birth and death, as many as 15 million people enter the sacred waters. A smaller version, the Magha Mela, takes place annually during the month of Magh, December, January. January of 1971, however, happened to fall halfway through the 12-year cycle from one Kumbh Mela to the next, and the Mela was known as Adha Kumbh Mela. Millions would attend, and Srila Prabhupada decided to take advantage of the opportunity and attend the Mela with his disciples to preach. While his disciples took the train from Surat to Allahabad, Prabhupada, accompanied by Tamal Krishna, Hangsadutta, Nanda Kumar, and others, went briefly to Bombay and then to Kolkata, where he satisfied himself that his shipments of books from Daya Nippon was safely stored at a Scindia warehouse. He also purchased 24-inch brass Radha Krishna deities to take with him to Allahabad. On January 11th, he wrote, "Tomorrow morning we are going to Allahabad to attend the Adha Kumbh Mela festival. We shall be going all 40 strong devotees, and there are expected 7 million going there also by the month of Magh. About 25 devotees had taken the train from Surat to Allahabad, and others, newcomers from US and England, would soon be arriving. After a 23-hour train ride, the first group arrived. As they disembarked, they could see only fog. With the address of a brahmachari ashram, where they would stay until they could pitch their tents at the Mela site, they started forward. The devotees knew little of what to expect as they crowded into several one-horse tangas and proceeded toward the appointed brahmachari ashram. They had heard that the Kumbh Mela was the most auspicious time to bathe in the Triveni, and that the water was icy cold. In the foggy morning, they saw pilgrims along the road, riders on camels, and guards carrying rifles. Reaching the ashram at sunrise, they could see the sacred Ganges before them. The next morning, the devotees started for pilgrimage site, joining the stream of pilgrims funneling toward the Triveni. As they passed Rambagh train station, a sign read, "From this point, the confluence of the holy river Ganges and Yamuna and the forts are 5 kilometers. Riding in bicycle rickshaws, the devotees merged with the moving tide of pilgrims, and soon they saw before them on what 1 week before had been an empty plain, a city of tents. From the small tents, big tents, and giant pandals with flags flying rose a dissonance of sounds, music, loudspeaker announcements in different languages, bhajans, and the hum of prayers. The devotees got down from the rickshaws, paid their drivers, and proceeded ahead, moving with a flow of pilgrims. As they walked, the ground transformed from grass to sand to mud, and the amplified music and the din of mantras and chants increased. The entire way was lined by beggars with leprosy, elephantitis, and deformities. The Mela committee had given ISKCON a good location near one of the entrance gates, and a few of the experienced devotees engaged workers in setting up tents. ISKCON's pandal was large and brightly colored, with 3 smaller tents close by, one for men and one for women, and one for Srila Prabhupada. A flimsy shack of corrugated tin served as a kitchen. Prabhupada was to arrive the next day, and the devotees worked quickly, putting down hay and rolling out dharis, large carpets of coarse cotton fabric. The devotees would have to build their own fires, gather their own vegetables, wash their own cloth, and do everything for themselves, all in the middle of a cold, barren sand flat. It was a far cry from being served like princes at the life member's home. The devotees were in the midst of a great religious festival and human spectacle, and without Prabhupada, most of them were bewildered by the strange sights and sounds. Yogis sat all day in the same posture, while crowds stood watching. Trident carrying Shaivites with simple red cloth, Rudraksha beads, and matted hair sat smoking ganja. A procession of elephants, followed by 2 long files of naked sadhus, strode by. An ascetic lay on a bed of thorns, and there were still others, extreme renunciant, rarely seen by the rest of civilization. And of course the various Hindu sects abounded, their chants and prayers rising into the air to mingle with the morning mist, and the smoke from the 10,000 campfires that clouded the sky above the city of tents. When it speaks about the city of tents, I was thinking of my recent visit to Sri Mayapur, where it was Gaur Punim time, and I found it completely fascinating that the night before Gaur Punim, there's many areas in Mayapur, so there's the Samadhi area of the Vaishnavas. If you go left, there's I think the names of Sri Nitai Padakamala, but Srila Prabhupada's Bhajan Kutir, there's two very beautiful brown deities of Nitai Gaurahari. And then if you go around, there's offices, and then eventually you get to the long building. And if you go now, start again at the Samadhis, and you go the other way, you get restaurants, and you get, if you take a left, you get eventually to the temple. So when I tell you that every space you can imagine was filled with tents for Gaur Punim, the courtyard of Srila Prabhupada's Bhajan Kutir covered with like mosquito nets. The long building, every single space was covered up. And so this reminds me of this kind of scene where everyone had come for Gaur Punim. And it's amazing for someone like me to witness who doesn't have taste to even navigate crowds. Like, it's very overwhelming for me. So I'm very humbled by these kind of pilgrims who probably walked very far. Some of them traveled very, very far under maybe austere conditions like buses and trucks and trains and walking. And they camped over for this Gaur Punim festival in masses and masses, with not much facility because they were just camping on the ground, and then far away there were some toilets and some place to wash, some public place. And it's very inspiring. So the same thing here, all these pilgrims who understand the culture of tapasya for Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada came to the West and dealt with personalities who don't understand that, who didn't understand that. And it says here that without Prabhupada, most of them were bewildered by the strange sights and sounds. So Srila Prabhupada made accessible to personalities that ordinarily would just have been having similar such camps, you know, in New York maybe, or different places of America, hippie camps with tents like that for various forms of degradation in the name of liberation. And Srila Prabhupada pulled everybody out of that and exposed them to real tapasya, real devotion, real purpose. So when Prabhupada arrived at the ISKCON camp the next day, the devotees were ecstatic. Eagerly they began to tell him of the bizarre sights of the Mela. One of them mentioned a guru riding on an elephant and added, "Actually, you should ride on the elephant." "No," Prabhupada replied, "I would put Radha and Krishna there." Prabhupada's presence reassured his disciples, reminding them that spiritual life was neither exotic nor bewildering, but simple and practical. In Prabhupada's presence, the devotees' attractions to mystic yoga, Vedic rituals, and material blessings and benedictions vanished. They accepted that great spiritual benefit awaited the pilgrims at the Mela, but as Prabhupada had said, to go to a holy place means find a holy person and hear from him. A place is holy because of the presence of the saintly persons. The devotees understood, therefore, that the greatest spiritual benefit lay in hearing from Srila Prabhupada. Sitting in his tent with his disciples, Prabhupada explained the significance of Adha Kumbh Mela. For millions of years, he said, this had been among the most sacred places in India. During the appearance of the tortoise avatar, when the demons and demigods had been churning immortal nectar, a drop of that nectar had fallen here. Since then, every 6 and 12 years, certain auspicious planets form a jug and this jug, filled with the immortal nectar, is said to pour that nectar upon the tree Veni. Lord Ramachandra and Hanuman appeared here in Allahabad, and here Lord Chaitanya taught Rupa Goswami the science of devotional service. Prabhupada said he had also lived in Allahabad with his wife and family, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had initiated him at Allahabad's Rupa Goswami's Gaudiya Math in 1932. As for the melas, anyone who came and bathed at the auspicious times when the prana was pouring down from the heavens was guaranteed either promotion to the heavenly planets or liberation. John Greaser. I talked with other so-called gurus and they were very impersonal. They didn't seem to care much for persons, especially Westerners. They had a dislike, sort of a disdain, even though occasionally some of them would have a Western disciple. Prabhupada was completely different. He didn't seem so much concerned about externals, but was very concerned about a person's philosophy, his consciousness. And of course, he always tried to inject Krishna consciousness into everyone he met. Prabhupada said that although most of the saints and sadhus present were inauthentic, many were perfect yogis, some of them 300 and 400 years old. These yogis from remote parts of India would come out for the mela and then return to seclusion. I have personally seen, he said, that they take bath in the Ganga and come up in the 7 sacred rivers. They go down in the Ganga and come up in the Godavari river. They go down and come up in Krishna river, go down and like that. The devotees therefore should respect everyone who attended the mela. So actually it's true, one of the devotees inquired, that just by bathing here they are liberated. Yes, Prabhupada said, it's true. They come here for liberation, but we have not come for liberation, we have come to preach. Being engaged in Krishna's unalloyed devotional service, we are already liberated. We are not interested in liberation. We have come to preach devotional service. The point that stood out for me here was Srila Prabhupada's pure devotional vision. When there was a sadhu riding an elephant, and his disciple proposed that Srila Prabhupada should ride an elephant, his mood most likely being that Srila Prabhupada should be venerated and held in very high esteem because of his greatness. And Srila Prabhupada automatically replied that he would put Radha and Krishna on the elephants. So in Mayapur also you see this boat festival where the devotees bring Shri Shri Radha Madhava onto this very beautiful boat. I think it had the form of it was like a combination of a peacock and a swan, because obviously you think of like a swan, how it floats on water, but it also had some features of a peacock. And it's very festive. These devotees again will gather in hundreds and hundreds all around the moat, and they're just practically these old ladies will climb on your head just to catch a glimpse. And I always stand there and I feel I have not even a drop of this type of devotion, because I'm agitated by the crowd and I don't want people to stand on my head, and I get but they're so happy just to see one moment of this boat festival. So most of my time wasn't spent looking at the boat or the deities. I was looking at these pilgrims and feeling quite ashamed how I can be offensive and be so agitated, and and they're so devoted and so devotional naturally, just natural. And I was also thinking of Lord Chaitanya, who allowed this old lady to stand on his head because he understood the purity of her heart, and she had so much devotion. So Srila Prabhupada is like that. He's got this very incredible vision where naturally anything he looks at, he sees Krishna, and then he sees how to glorify Krishna using this topic of discussion or object that's being discussed, in this case an elephant. And that's very practical. When Prabhupada rose early the next morning, the temperature was near freezing. His tent had no heat. He walked to the pandal to lead kirtan at Mangal Aarti, and he sat on his Vyasasan. A disciple handed him his quilt. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath ki, Shri Shri Govardhan ki, Shri Shri Gaura Hari ki, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. When Prabhupada rose early the next morning, the temperature was near freezing. His tent had no heat. He walked to the pandal to lead the kirtan at Mangal Aarti, and as he sat on a Vyasasan, a disciple handed him his quilt, which he wrapped around himself. To rise and bath in such cold was difficult for most devotees. A few went to the Ganga, others bathed at the nearby pump, and some refused to get up at all. Giriraj. The program was very rigorous. Because it was bitterly cold at night and we were expected to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and bath and attend Mangal Aarti, so a few staunch devotees like Tamal Krishna and Hangsadutta got up early by 3 or 3:30 and walked all the way from our camp to the Ganga to take an early morning bath. But those of us staying in the Brahmachari tent were not so staunch, and generally when it was time to get up at 4 o'clock, it was so cold out that we preferred to remain in our sleeping bags. Srila Prabhupada also started to notice that some of us were coming late to Mangal Aarti and that some of us were not coming at all. Prabhupada became very upset about this because he knew how important Mangal Aarti was for us. So one morning, although he was a little frail in health, he got up at 4 o'clock and came out in his gamsha, sat down under the water pump and took that ice bath early in the morning, just under the pump, to encourage us to get up, bath and come to Mangal Aarti. That had a very profound effect on all of us, and we felt so ashamed that we just couldn't sleep late anymore. After Kirtan, Prabhupada lectured on Srimad Bhagavatam, resuming the story of Ajamil. This particular story, with its glorification of the Lord's holy name, seemed especially relevant. The holy name was so powerful that by chanting only once, Ajamil had been saved. Chanting, therefore, was far more beneficial than the prana coming from the constellations. Dawn came and the sky lightened, but only barely. A damp, heavy fog from the river, mingling with the smoke from the campfires, clung to everything. Rain began to fall. The devotees were unprepared for this weather. With food hard to get and cook and toilet facilities the crudest, the devotees wondered how they would last for the scheduled 2 weeks. Prabhupada, however, who shared with his disciples all these austerities, remained transcendental and apparently unaffected. If the sun peeked through the clouds, he would sit outside and take his massage. Then he would bath himself, sitting in the gamsha, dipping his lota into warmed Ganga water and pouring it over his body. He seemed so content that the devotees took heart. He wasn't complaining, so why should they? Early in the morning, Prabhupada took the devotees out chanting. He wore his grey woolen chadar and his Swami hat strapped under his chin, and his disciples dressed in the warmest clothes they had, sweaters, hats and chadars. Prabhupada led the party as they weaved and wandered through the densely populated tent city. The kirtan was a joy to the other pilgrims. Ironically, amid such an exotic gathering of yogis, renunciants, naked sadhus and the like, Prabhupada and his disciples created the greatest stir. And they were preaching. Although other groups were uttering mantras or lecturing in their tents, there was nothing else like this. This was the only Sankirtan and everyone welcomed it. With Prabhupada stately but joyful at the head, the procession grew. The Indians joined the Western sadhus in chanting Hare Krishna. Prabhupada sent the devotees out on Sankirtan each morning. As the kirtan party formed from camp to camp, many pilgrims would run up, offering prostrated obeisances, money and respect. With strong, experienced street kirtan drummers and chanters like Madhudvisa, Dinanath, and Hangsadutta leading the chanting party, the devotees would forget the cold and the austerity. Prabhupada stressed the importance of chanting. Always there must be kirtan, he said. Philosophy and lectures would not be as effective at such gatherings because the common people would not understand. Lord Chaitanya had never lectured in public, but always he held kirtan. As a result of the devotees' kirtan, thousands would stream into ISKCON's large pandal to see Radha Krishna deities and take prasadam. ISKCON had the only Krishna deity at the whole Mela, and thousands would line up to see him. Prabhupada would speak in English in the morning and Hindi at night, and his evening kirtans in the pandal became a great success. The Western sadhus with the women and little children were a great curiosity to behold. Prabhupada also arranged for mass prasadam distribution, and he assigned Revati Nandana and a few helpers to cook almost non-stop over 2 small wood fires in the kitchen shed. Some nights the devotees would cook vegetables and halava, or vegetables and puris, for as many as 700 people. ISKCON's impact on the Mela pleased Srila Prabhupada. So this last section reminds me so much of the, as we were calling them the other day, the unsung heroes of the Food for Life biryani cooking that happens here at Shri Shri Radha Radhanath. This is this same legacy that Srila Prabhupada started at Kumbh Mela, carrying on 50 plus years later with great brilliance and continuity and expansion. This is Srila Prabhupada's miracles. So you see here at Shri Shri Radha Radhanath the holes being dug in these massive pots, and personally I don't even know one personality who's cooking those feasts, but so many people are benefiting from these hundreds of thousands of plates of prasadam and vegetables and halava being cooked. So Srila Prabhupada's legacy is incredible, and the force of his purity is unmatched, because it's by the force of his purity that everything is being sustained and maintained and expanding so brilliantly that year after year you can attend Rath Yatra and this Food for Life is carrying on, this festival is carrying on, and centers are opening up, more and more devotees are joining more and more, and everything is expanding. Oopsie. In the meantime, our program for touring India has been going with all success in every place we are invited. Now we have come to Ardha Kumbh Mela at Prayag, Allahabad, and we have got undisputed prominence amongst all groups here in the large gathering. Srila Prabhupada's lectures on Ajamil gave life to the cold and sometimes sick devotees. This opportunity to hear from Prabhupada was the reward for all the austerities. In each morning class, Prabhupada continued to stress the importance of chanting the holy names purely. The purification of one's chanting Harinam means as soon as you chant the holy name of Krishna, you will see the form of Krishna, realize the qualities of Krishna, remember the pastimes of Krishna. That is pure chanting of Hare Krishna mantra. That is stated in the commentary of Srila Jiva Goswami, that a pure devotee who chants Hare Krishna mantra immediately realizes the Nama, Rupa, Guna, Lila, everything about Krishna, simply by chanting the names. You will feel the form of Krishna, you will remember all his qualities. Oh, Krishna is so qualified, he is so magnanimous. Then you will remember his Lila pastimes. Oh, Krishna instructed Arjuna. Krishna plays with his cowherd boys. Krishna had very nice talks with the gopis, with his mother Yashoda. These things you will remember. That is the actual perfection of chanting. Prabhupada reiterated that the only reason he had come with his disciples to the Mela was to glorify Lord Krishna, so that others could understand the importance of Krishna consciousness movement. But if the devotees were to successfully give Krishna consciousness to others, they must first realize Krishna themselves. It was possible, he said, to think of Krishna always. He gave the example of the Indian women carrying big water pots on the head. Just as they have learned to keep the balance in spite of all other movements, so a devotee, despite his activities and despite mental agitation, should always remember Krishna. And the best way to remember Krishna is to practice always chanting the holy name. I remember one of our teachers in our school life instructed that if you always think, I shall pass my examination with distinction, then you will pass in the first division. If you think, I shall pass my examination in the first division, then you will probably pass in the third division. And if you think, I will somehow or other pass my examination in the third division, then you will fail. This means that if you expect more than your capacity, then it may be possible that at the time of examination you will pass. So in chanting Hare Krishna mantra, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said that you chant only 1 hour. So in chanting Hare Krishna mantra, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said, not that you chant only 1 hour, no, one should practice. And that practice was shown by Haridas Thakur, who chanted almost 24 hours daily. But because we cannot, therefore we have to engage always in the service of Krishna. That will make you remember Krishna. Prabhupada said that the chanting of Hare Krishna is exactly like Srila Prabhupada said that the chanting of Hare Krishna is exactly like a lion's roar. As a lion's roar frightens all small creatures, the chanting of Hare Krishna ends all one's sinful reactions. He repeatedly warned the devotees, however, to avoid the most dangerous offense, that of committing sins on the strength of the holy name. But even if you fall down, there is no loss. That is the statement of Narada. If one takes to Krishna sincerely and executes devotional service, but then again falls down, still he will come back, just like we have practical experience. Some of our students have fallen down, but whatever sincere service he has rendered, that is his permanent credit, and one day he will be saved, just like Ajamil. On Prabhupada's last day in Allahabad, a Mr. Gorkishore visited him in his tent, inviting him to Banaras. As chairman of the 456th annual festival commemorating Lord Chaitanya's visit to Banaras, Mr. Gorkishore wanted Prabhupada to attend the festival as the honored guest. When Prabhupada said he felt ill and that perhaps some of his disciples could go in his stead, Mr. Gorkishore persisted until Prabhupada finally agreed. But first, Prabhupada wanted to visit Gorakhpur. So that's a new section. How is the time? Ending at? 20. Gorakhpur, February 3rd, 1971. The Ada Kumbh Mela over. Some devotees went to Delhi, some went to Bombay, and others to Kolkata. Prabhupada and the remaining devotees went to Gorakhpur, a 10-hour journey on the antiquated Meter Gauge railway. Prabhupada had been invited by his only disciple in Gorakhpur, Dr. R.P. Rao, now Ramananda, a research chemist who had met Prabhupada in San Francisco, taken initiation in 1967, and since returned to his family and 4 children to teach chemistry at Gorakhpur University. Prabhupada and his disciples moved into crowded quarters at Ramananda's modest home, and about 100 people attended Prabhupada's lecture that evening. Prabhupada already had plans for a Radha Krishna temple on the Gorakhpur University campus, as well as accredited courses and degrees in Krishna consciousness, BA, MA, and PhD. He envisioned graduates going out to teach Krishna consciousness in schools, colleges, and temples all over the world. He inspired Ramananda and a group of his friends to form a committee to introduce Krishna consciousness within the university, and he initiated about 12 disciples. Since they all professed to be following rules against illicit sex, intoxication, and gambling, and had been lifelong vegetarians, he waived the usual 6-month trial period. He asked them to chant 16 rounds daily and make their city Krishna conscious. In his absence, they should maintain Ramananda's home as an active ISKCON center and tried to establish courses in Krishna consciousness at the university. Benares, February 6, 1971. Mr. Gorkishore was counting heavily on Prabhupada's participation in the upcoming celebration. The climax of the week-long observance of Lord Chaitanya's visit to Benares would be a parade. Mr. Gorkishore said, and Prabhupada and his disciples, had an important part in it. Newspaper articles, handbills, and loudspeaker carts had announced throughout the city the presence of Srila Prabhupada and his foreign disciples. The devotees sensed that they were being treated like entertainers, expected to perform as if under contract, but without salary. On the day of the procession, Prabhupada rode in a silver chariot, the kind customarily used in extravagant wedding processions. The chariot was pulled by a pair of white horses, wearing silver crowns and decorative blankets. The leading float in the parade bore a 6-foot statue of Lord Chaitanya in yellow nimwood. Next followed a file of decorated elephants. One elephant carried a banner reading, Hare Nama Eva Kevalam. One carried actors dressed as Lord Ram and Sita. Another carried 2 actors dressed as Radha and Krishna, who waved to the crowds, and another a picture of Lord Chaitanya and his associates performing Sankirtan. Next came a decorated flatbed truck with children portraying Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, chanting and dancing. Then followed a series of professional kirtan groups and Prabhupada's foreign disciples dancing and performing kirtan. Behind the devotees, Srila Prabhupada rode in his chariot. On either side of the chariot walked a devotee fanning Prabhupada with a chamara whisk. While Prabhupada sat with his right hand in his bead bag, his left hand on his cane, he was dressed in silk with pearl buttons on his kurta. A wide patch of sandalwood paste covered his forehead, and he didn't wave or smile or turn to see the crowds, but sat calmly, chanting Hare Krishna on his beads. Following Prabhupada's chariot was a Sanani group, several more kirtan parties, and finally another statue of Lord Chaitanya carried by 8 men. The festival committee said 300,000 attended, double what they would have without Prabhupada and his foreign disciples. The procession was over, however, and as the star attraction, Prabhupada had made his appearance and drawn a large crowd, and now nothing more was required. He felt tired, and his disciples were taken to he and his disciples were taken nearby to the Dharmashala and served a feast. Prabhupada remained grave and as soon as possible returned to his quarters and his regular schedule. A student at the University of Benares who had met Prabhupada at the Allahabad Mela stopped by to visit. The boy's father had given him a biography of Lord Chaitanya as a gift for Prabhupada, and when the boy showed Prabhupada a picture of his father, Prabhupada said, "Yes, your father is a devotee, so why don't you also take initiation?" The boy was hesitant. As he walked with Prabhupada into the garden, Prabhupada said, "You have got the seed of devotional service from your father, so now you must cultivate." "But how can I shave my head?" the boy inquired. "I'm a university student." "No, it is a custom. You should shave once, and then you can keep short hair." "But how can I wear tilak? They will laugh at me." Prabhupada said the boy should not fear criticism. He should become a soldier of Krishna. Just as the government honors its valiant soldiers, Krishna rewards a devotee who accepts difficulties and criticism on his behalf. "What about Guru Dakshina?" the boy asked. "Guru Dakshina is just a formality," Prabhupada said. "It was a custom in olden days that when someone gets initiation, he goes to the various homes. It is a sign that you become a servant of your Guru. You are prepared to beg alms for your Guru. It is whatever you give." The boy returned home and told his father. The next day was an auspicious day, his father said, the appearance day of Lord Nityananda, a good day to receive spiritual initiation. So the next day on Nityananda Trayodasi, Srila Prabhupada initiated the boy, giving him the name Niranjanadas. When Prabhupada asked Niranjana if he had any questions, Niranjana said he wanted to know his eternal relationship with Krishna. Was it as servant, as friend, as parent? Prabhupada replied that servitude was the common ground in all transcendental relationships with Lord Krishna. By chanting Hare Krishna, Niranjana would become more and more purified and realize more and more his relationship with Krishna. Niranjana asked how he would understand his relationship. No, don't jump, Prabhupada said. You have some Shraddha faith from your father, and now you are associating with the devotees and chanting. Gradually you will realize. Niranjana agreed to be patient. Prabhupada asked Niranjana to arrange a lecture for him on campus, and Niranjana, with the help of his uncle, a philosophy professor, got Prabhupada a speaking engagement for his last morning in Benares. On the day Prabhupada was to leave, he met with John Greaser, the American photographer traveling with him and his party since Surat. John, who had shaved his mustache and thought a lot about his future, came to say goodbye until Bombay, where they would meet again in a few weeks. John found Prabhupada in the courtyard enjoying the sunshine and eating gur, date sugar, from a clay pot. Prabhupada asked that the pot be broken and distributed to John and the other devotees present. And while John sat licking the gur from a piece of clay pot, Prabhupada talked about his boyhood in Calcutta. John. Prabhupada was talking in his accented rhythmic English about his boyhood days in Calcutta, and he described a gracious city before the crowding and squalor of today. As a schoolboy, he had seen splendid Victorian buildings of white marble, surrounded by stately lawns and trees. Suddenly, Prabhupada looked over at me and laughed. So, John, he said, I think Krishna has captured you. I agreed. I had known it for quite a while, but now Srila Prabhupada confirmed it. What's the time? So, Hare Krishna. If anyone has some questions or comments or reflections, something that stood out or corrections, welcome.
Hare Krishna. The few points I noted from the discussion was Prabhupada was giving pure devotional service right from the beginning, and he was seeing Krishna in everything, but also it was the stressing on the devotees coming for Mangalarti. I found that quite interesting. Although it was so cold in the Kumbh Mela, he took bath in cold water, just to set the example. And the other point on Ajamil, just chanting, once one can be liberated. So that chanting once, has to be on the less offensive stage. For somebody to get liberation. But Prabhupada writes very interesting commentary quoting the previous acharyas in the sixth canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, that just by naming his son Narayan, that all his sinful activities were removed. And by calling Narayan from time to time, he was getting bhakti or devotion. But still, he just couldn't go back to Godhead just like that. He had to take, go to Hardwar and practice and then go back to Godhead. So to actually enter into the spiritual world, one has to be chanting purely. The other thing was quite interesting was about the young boy who wanted to take initiation, and you could see Prabhupada right from the very beginning didn't get into the discussion of his swarup or the spiritual form right from the very beginning, and there are other instances also. And even Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, although he revealed his spiritual form, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, but Prabhupada didn't. And sometimes devotees do speculate on what his spiritual form was. So if this is what I kind of learned from from your class today, and very good points. Thank you very much.
Srila Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Ita Go Premanande.